Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Ouya 2014. A year in review, maybe, possibly. I don't know what to call this really. I'm just, again, much like my life, I'm just playing this all by ear. So, this isn't so much a top 10 games list, mainly because there's much more than 10. This is more just 3 lists. 1, great games I think that came out this year. Again, not necessarily 1 through 10 or any particular order. Then there's also my personal favorites, kind of games. Some were guilty pleasures, some I had more fun with, some I had great times with, other than the third list of just ones that essentially had a great idea, didn't fully flush it out, or did something great and I like to see more of. It's just kind of like maybe unappreciated games, something I like to see more great ideas. Anyways, so on to the list. Again, this isn't a top 10. If you want to see like the best games of 2014, the Ouya forums have a post going about this, where you could actually see each person, kind of list their what their personal games were of the year and such like that. If we go in with games of the year, I know it didn't come out this year, but I still would list Amazing Frog as one of my top games. And actually, there's a nice analogy I like to make with the Amazing Frog. I'll do that at the end of the video, which will kind of bring this all together. Anyway, so let's see. Let's start with the list of great games. So I call them great games. They're big games, games that did well, games that were full-flushed games. I mean, just complete packaged games type things. So, like Broken Age. Now, Broken Age actually came out on Steam and stuff everywhere else long before it came to Ouya. But I figured it should be mentioned. It is a great game, and it is on Ouya. And again, its storytelling is done well. Tim Schafer and all them over there at Double Fine do a great job with that genre. And actually, here soon, sorry, I don't know if it was Tim Schafer. I think it was. Because it was part of, what was it? Grim Fandango. And it was part of LucasArts and that whole kind of era. And I think that was Tim Schafer's had a sign in it. I don't know. Anyways, that's coming out soon. Hopefully with the Ouya, but more like I think that's a PS4 thing. Anyways, like I said, Broken Age, great game. Another one on the list here, Super Hexagon. Man, is that fast-paced and can be frustrating. But again, it's that challenge where you keep finding yourself going back and back to prove you can do better and better each time. Mirror Moon EP. Again, this is a intriguing indie game. I mean, just the beauty of it, wandering around, exploring new stuff. I mean, you can't go wrong with that kind of just free roaming, artistic exploring game. Next on the list, again, these are no particular order. This is how I found them listed by chronological order. I'll get it right one of these days on the Ouya website. Acorn Assault. Now, this one was a simplistic battle game where you were pitted against another opponent. Usually you could do AI or local or now multiplayer online. So again, simple play, a simple game, addicting gameplay, multiplayer. Great great items to have in a great game. I'm trying to think of something, but again, I'm, as I said in the beginning, not a professional. There's also a Solfajor. Again, that was a rhythm-based attack game. Very fun, very good. It was one of the big games in the early year that they pushed. Actually, again, fun. You just gotta. It's roguelike where you just continuously play and play till you get better and better, and you get more stuff where more points where you can buy stuff to keep. So each time you play, you actually keep some of your inventory. I mean, it's, again, just one of those games where you continue to play because you know you can do better. Magnetic by Nature. Again, one of these great platformers where they take a simple mechanic and they go so far with it. I mean, just the things you could do with a simple magnetic attraction and repulsive forces. It's, again, just one of those games where you have to try just to see how great it actually is. Never-Ending Nightmares. Now, this was a great game. It actually, I don't know, did it technically come out because they had the early access on there forever. And finally, the full game came out this year. So I'm counting it here. But it's one of these great games where the art style is just outstanding. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed just the look of the game. Not to mention how well they did with the atmosphere of it. Where just the scares weren't jumps. They were ingrained. They were so methodically part and spaced out. It was just a thing of beauty. And just the story itself was an interesting story. I can't recommend it enough. So play that all the way. Actually, and not only that, there's multiple endings. So I did my playthrough. And what's funny is I think it was Kim of the Yogcast play it. And there was a point where, like, I thought I was stuck. She went over the edge and went through another storyline, which, of course, I knew there was more. I just didn't know that was the point. I was just amazed when you see other people and the kind of stuff they did with it, where they got stuck versus where you didn't type thing. On the other one, actually, this is a bit down the list, but what is this? Yeah, the Whispering Willows. Another great game where pacing, sound design, and art style work great together. So, not as scary, I would say, as Neverending Nightmares. Or rather, the scares and the stuff doesn't stick with you much, but it's still a great game. Again, simple mechanic, you the ghost, and it just works so well mixing puzzles with it. I mean, again, one of those games I can't recommend enough playing. So, Reagan versus Gorbachev. What can I say about this one? This one, again, for those who don't know, it's in the style of, say, Hotline Miami, top-down, over-the-top violence, where you play as Reagan or Gorbachev. Each have their own special abilities, and you use them to solve puzzles, get through levels, kill enemies. It's also a great co-op game. Again, you have 2 players, obviously. Again, the humor, the style, everything screams 80. It's just a great, fantastic game. Again, something I would highly recommend if you haven't played yet. Again, most of these actually have some kind of free demo, which you can play. So, Boson X. Again, in the style of Super Hexagon. Just this frustratingly simple mechanic, but fast-paced game where you always find yourself dying many times over. So just these reaction-based games are just so much fun, yet so frustrating, yet you find yourself continuously subjecting yourself to playing it more and more. Oh, it's so great. Magic Rampage. Yeah, this one actually kind of nice, simple game, but again, the art style, of the gameplay, everything works well with it. Again, something I would recommend. Elliot's Quest. This one I played ages ago as a Kickstarter demo. And now I believe the full-fledged game's out and it works nicely. It's brilliant platform. Again, everything about it just itches that nostalgia scratch, if that's the right way to frame it. I mean, it just fulfills that nostalgia urge so nicely. Everything about it, just the tone when you solve a puzzle, the boss fights, the level maps are just so reminiscent of the classic genre. And Zelda, yeah, exactly. The Link to the Past being, I think it's one of its greater influences as well. Of course, the Ocarina of Time, which then again is essentially kind of the same game's remix, but yeah. So there, I mean, like I said, no particular order, just me kind of picking the games that I remember and that I know a lot of people enjoyed. So again, just 13 random 13 great games that are now available that came out this year. And that's not including all the games that came before it. Again, there's over 1,000 games on the Ouya just waiting to be tried. So, and again, I have a rant for that at the end, but let's wait to the end. Next, let's move on to my kind of personal favorites. Some of them are guilty pleasure. Some of them are just because they made a great video. Point in case, Car Jumper. Car Jumper. You jump cars. That's it. It's a silly game. It's nice. It was the sound effects. It made me laugh so hard I actually had hiccups for hours. I mean, I just couldn't. It was just ridiculous. The cheesy sound effects, the cheesy graphics. I mean, it's a simplistic pleasure Period. It's just such a great game. I mean, and you want to talk about personal favorites and silly games. Horse game. I mean, this is Waller's game, I believe, made it. He made 3 games, and again, they're all made with the Hamster Republic engine, I believe it was called, something in the sense. Anyways, it's just such a ridiculous game, and just the sense of humor about it is great. You'll play it probably within 30 minutes, if that, but it's just such a nice, simple in-out laugh, funny. It's great. Play it seriously. Let's see what else was there. Nowhere Safe. Nowhere Safe 2, I should say, which is again available on Ouya. You get to play the whole game free. It's the ending that they charge you to see. And by the way, it's worth it. Well, see, to me, it was worth it. I've had more fun playing that silly. The game's has a serious tone. There's actually something quite seriously. Just, I don't know. To me, I had fun with it because I had fun making a video about it. So again, it's a visual novel about depressing issues. I mean, what I learned about the first game, you come in, essentially she was a shut-in that got raped by her brother's psychologist. No, her psychologist's brother. Yes. And is now forced to live at home as she raised her daughter with her husband, who, for some reason, got over his anxiety, who wasn't able to live inside homes. I mean, the storyline can be depressing, but it was just, I had more fun playing it. I sound like a horrible person now. Like, I had this great game about this depressing person. But no, it actually is a great game. It actually does help to raise, I guess, awareness of mental illness and stuff. But play it. You'll just have fun. It's the visual novel style too. So if you're used to those old dating sims, one kind of dating sims, visual novels more than dating sims, you'll have fun with this one. It's very reminiscent of that. FP Runner, and as well FP Runner 2, which has a multiplayer, which I never got to play because I'm always by myself. Don't want to be all by myself. It's almost a reflex. I have to sing that song afterwards. Anyways, it's essentially what it is. First person runner. All you are is a pair of hands and you're jumping on blocks. Addicting is what I call it. It's one of those games where I do a sound check before I record videos, where I pit the sound of what I'm recording with, the Ouya, whatever have you, what the game essentially, versus my mic. And that used to be the game I would play because it's just the epic music and and also again, very professional. It's just the addicting nature, simplistic quality of the game where you just find yourself easily drawn to it. I mean, it's one of these great games. Again, completely free, I believe. FP2, though, you do have to pay to have multiplayer, I believe. But it's just such a simple, fun game. I mean, essentially, you're running. It's almost a platformer from the first-person view, if you want to look at it that way. Again, great game. Excavator Simulator. Now this one, if you haven't played any of the classic simulators, mainly they're usually from Germany and stuff, whether they try too hard to be too realistic, and as a result, usually there's some horrible game-breaking glitch, which becomes what everyone plays it for. This one had the same thing. So it was a great video because I found a way to make rocks launch into orbit. So again, like I said, these videos are because I had great fun making videos of them, or just because they really made me laugh. So, Homeland, was it Strike Force? Oh God, this one I made a video of, and I never continued. Then sometime this year? I think I went through and made another video of it. It got updated this year, so it was on the 2014 list. But me and Phil had fun. I mean, the gameplay was okay. It was, it was getting there. It essentially was a beta that they never finished. So there was 4 levels. But just the silliness of me and Phil, and I miss Phil already. What was that? Colorina. I still never learned how to say it. Colorina. Anyways, it's a culinary cooking game. It was silly. And it was random. And again, I think I had more fun with it than most people would with the demo. And again, what it was a playable demo for their Kickstarter thing. And then, by the way, the Kickstarter did get passed. It is coming to Ouya eventually. So that's something to look forward to. And is that all on the list here? Homeland, Strike Force, Nowhere Face, FP Runner. Yeah. So my kind of... Oh, no. Of course. How could I forget? The Alpha Collection. Oh, thank you, J&K. And by the way, if I had one person to shout out for this year, it would be J&K at gameaweek.com. That's gameaweek.com. Because I always get that wrong. I always forget the A at front. But, I mean, one person has made more games for the Ouya. That's J&K. That's J&K. So, I love the man. And again, the games he comes out with, essentially his idea, his goal is what the website says, a game a week, regardless of if it's finished or not, or just essentially he has an idea, go with it. It's a way to force him to make games. So sometimes you could think of a great idea and you try to make it work, but something's just not right. You take your time, eventually it falls by the wayside. That week goal forces you sometimes to release it, and you end up finding, when people play it, something more fun than what you originally had. I don't know. I'm not exactly a master of the English language, so. But yeah, again, the games he comes up with are always interesting and fun. Again, just playing with an idea, just trying something new. Again, if you haven't played any of his games, you should. If you have Ouya, it's almost impossible to miss because there's such great games and they're so prolific. But he also has a lot of games on his website. So I can, and as well as on Android and tablet. I mean, on tablets, Apple. So I can't recommend most of his stuff enough. Again, all free. Just him playing around with ideas and enjoying and playing games. Sorry, I got distracted. Kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. Excuse me. I also had to burp there. So hopefully I edit that out. The burp anyways. Yeah, I mean, just having fun, making games, playing with ideas. Can't recommend his stuff enough. So, but now onto it's kind of a weird list of games I really liked that I like to see either more of, or they had a great idea that just didn't seem to be fully flushed out. Or it was a great idea, I'd just like to see more of. Rather, Only One, which essentially, if I remember right, was only text. And it just did so well with this minimalist. Was it even sound effects? I don't think so. Essentially, you were just reading the story, making choices. So it was close to a visual novel without the visual part. But it was just such a brilliant kind of almost social experiment. What would you do? What would you do in this situation? Here's this character. Here's his feelings. What do you do now? Kind of thing. And it was just such a great use of that. Just text. Essentially, was all it was. But you found yourself enrolled in the story. So much so, I did the whole thing on the video, but I couldn't give away the ending. I wanted you guys to play it and have your own experience, again, with what actually happened. So... And let's see what else there. Dark Beat. Now, Dark Beat is kind of the old genre of just you're wandering around in the dark. And what I mean, it's just minimalistic. All it is a frame. So you walk, the frame's a wall. You walk, the frame's now the walls on your left and the hallways in front of you. Turn left, now the walls to, essentially just kind of find your way through a maze with a dark beat, with a beating heart being the only... way to know what you're heading for. And I forget what you eventually do with it, but it just this idea, simplistic, minimalistic, the wall is all you see. When you turn into darkness, that's all you see. So essentially, if you had a piece of paper, you could draw a map, but it just left you to try to do that on your own. So, I mean, just amazing. It's one of the things like amazing what they can do with so little. So, again, it wasn't fully flushed. I would have liked to seen more stuff like that. And so... let's see, what else is there? Particle Soup. I got a version of that from the person who made it. I think it was Elza. And for my PC. The version she got to the Ouya had some issues. But I believe she was updating it. Or he. Anyways, that person was... Again, it's... All it is a physics engine. You have a bunch of particles, up to 5,000, I believe, on the full version. And you could just play with it, gravity, how much it moves, and just let it slowly build. And it is art. I mean, it's just memorizing, yes, whatever word, just to watch it. Just essentially to let the explosion go, set the gravity, and just watch it wave as particles float. It's I like I said, it's art. It's just brilliant. Something I would love to see more of. Just the simplistic physics engine and just how beautiful it looks. And what's the last one on the list? Where am I? Where am I? I played that full game. Extremely frustrating. Mainly because you start and I didn't even know it was my phone as a light. And it's a small hole, a small sense of light. You stumble around the dark so much in that game, but that's kind of the point of it. You're supposed to eventually, you find a flashlight, it gets bigger, like then you could find stuff, and there's some jump scares in it. But I mean, just that it could have been done so much better. I thought they did a good enough job, but it's hard to get back past the initial frustration of. I mean, I had to restart the game a couple of times because I end up getting lost, but it's just that simplistic idea of fumbling around in the dark with only a small circle of light to guide your way. It just, I don't know, something about it seemed to me like it could have been done better. But, again, great idea, just slightly executed, not, I guess, could have been done better, but it was still done great. It just, the initial frustration was what was hard to get over. Just like the idea of that, fumbling in the dark, finding new light. Because that was really the aha moment. Because I spent, God, how long did I spend with the small light? Eventually, I got the area kind of what I thought was mapped out. Then all of a sudden, I get the bigger flashlight. And all of a sudden, this world I've been walking around for a while now became more open to me. So I just kind of, it went from, okay, I think this is here. I think this is a living room, to finally realizing what I was seeing, what was happening around me. So. And again, a great scare effect. It just, I don't know, maybe it was my experience, but I think it could have been fleshed out better. But back to the conversation of what has the Ouya's year been like? It's been an interesting year, mainly because we haven't seen the Ouya 2. But also because we had changes like in April, I think it was, where they got rid of the minimum free requirement. In that no longer did your game have to have a free demo or some free element to it. So that meant now you had lots of games coming out with no demo, had to buy it right off the bat. And some of the games retroactively taking away the demo. Also this year we saw lots of the games go from Ouya onto bigger platforms, i.e. Steam. So which brings us back to what I essentially said was my game of the year, what I still love to play on Ouya. Oh, by the way, what my favorite game still is Rose in Time, which is a great game. I think it's available on others. But when I talk about game of the year as being Amazing Frog, it's just because of how much there is to it and how big it is for the game and for the system. The Amazing Frog is also starting early access on Steam, which brings us to what I think the Ouya has become, and what it really one of the great things it is it's a fantastic breeding ground for independent games. Just this great place where people can get their idea out. Some games that would never make it onto other systems thrive in the Ouya, find their footing, get people their experience so they can move on to better games or improve that game and make it better. So of course, Towerfall is the big one that went to somewhere else, came back, and it sounds like now they're bad mouthing Ouya for some reason, with something that doesn't make sense to anyone that knows the Ouya. But and the same with now. That's what I'm saying is now Amazing Frog and Fuju's going to Steam, which is God bless them, and that's what I think the Ouya is. Use the analogy of the Eagle Nebula. It's a great place, breeding ground for future stars. Just that it's a place where people can get their ideas out there to try something new. I mean, what other system will you find those darn nipples, growing gravitators, or a ball slapping good time? By the way, all by the same guy. I mean, just these silly games, just an idea that someone wanted to try. It's just a great place for independent artists, game developers to try. A great place for your first game. To me, the Ouya is still alive. It's still thriving with the independent market. And I think it'll continue to do so. I just don't know for how long. They're starting to try to branch out into China, which is fine and dandy. They'll increase the market and stuff, but it can only do so much before they have to come out with the Ouya 2 or an update. So we'll see. We'll see what the future has for 2014. But if 2014 was any indicator, 2015 is going to be a great year for the Ouya. Just with all these great, I mean, like I said, just me randomly looking at a list, I came with 13 great games. And there's far more, like VVVVV was on there too. I forgot about that. Or, let's see, what was it? Pixalo is another great game. Super Renegade. Again, these great games that are reminiscent of the old childhood games. Duck Game. There's Duck Game. Fist Puncher. That was a great little side-scrolling game. Oh, So Many Me. How could I forget about So Many Me also? So again, there's too many games to really mention. And I'm not professional enough to sit down and make a list and tell you objectively why this game is my game of the year or such. But I will try to tell you how many enjoyable games there are. I mean, there's just so many on there. Again, over 1,000. And more than that, for anyone who's still watching this video, who hasn't owned a Ouya, who's wondering if I should get Ouya. If it's just all these, there's so much more to the Ouya than just games also. There's the XMBC. There's YouTube. Well, YouTube's on everything. But that's the point, is it's a little box that hooks up to your thing so you could stream stuff. So Crunchyroll's on there, YouTube, Vimeo, a bunch of other stuff. Also, as well as XMBC, which you could essentially play anything on, but not to count the emulators. So essentially, every game ever that you can find a ROM for can be played on this, past the PS2, PS3, and younger. So, or older, excuse me. I got that backwards, didn't I? But essentially, it is your childhood if you want it to be. If you want to emulate to play if you want to play Bubble Bobble on the NES, you have an emulator for that. If you want to watch the latest release from anime from Crunchyroll, you can do that. If you want to just have your own customized XBMC, there you go. Hooked up high def HDMI there. Hell, there's now custom launchers. And what I mean by that is a lot of people use Ouya as a XMBC box. XBMC. I'll get it right one of these days. So now people are coming up with custom launchers where once you start up the Ouya, it'll actually just go straight to what you want it to go to rather than the standard launch up. And that's the other thing about Ouya. PlayStation doesn't want you to modify the PS4. They don't want you to take it apart. They don't want you to add your own custom UI to it, or user interface. They don't want you to put your own custom startup to it. They don't want you to take it apart and use it as you see fit. Ouya wants you to mod whatever you want with it, and they're willing to help you with it. I mean, heck, I haven't seen any of the old systems, PS4, PS3, Xbox One, get turned into an arcade box. But there's been tons of Ouyas that have been done so. So yeah, again, the Ouya, if not a great platform for independent gamers to get the foothold, is a great system for those who want to try modifying, creating, and seeing what they can do with a custom gaming system. So again, I can't speak enough about the great wonders that Ouya has for people who haven't tried it yet. Don't believe what you hear out there. Ouya is still thriving. It's still doing well. It could be doing better, but we'll see what the future holds. Because, it's been, I want to say 500 games in the last year. We'll see what the future holds and what my list next year will be. I don't know. I'm just a guy that plays games and occasionally drinks. I'm not professional, so Who wants to take my word for it? Go out, try it for yourself. Don't believe what others say, I guess. Anyways, with that rambling aside, who knows how long this video is going to be. So, there was my thoughts on the Ouya and the games for 2014. We'll see, again, what the future holds. So, all that aside, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.